Hello, welcome to the second part of the invoice templates tutorial. Here we're going to finish our invoice template, which we are creating from scratch. We already have invoice header, and in this video we'll add invoice rows, totals, and learn one important feature called formatting rules. So we already have a detailed band which is printed as many times as the number of invoice selected in the invoice list before clicking print button. Now we have to add another detail band which will be printed as many times as the number of rows in each invoice. To do this, right-click on a report, select Insert Detail Report, and in the appeared list you will see all nested tables which belong to our data source. Select Invoice Details. A new nested report will be created with one detail band. Let's rename this nested report to Invoice Rows. And detail band to Invoice Row. And here I must explain one important thing. Let's save our template, close the designer, and go to Invoice. And let's open some invoice. Each invoice has invoice details table. This table includes job, work type, quantity, unit price, amount columns. As the note above this table says, almost all columns in this table become uneditable when any job is selected in the job column. In other words, when job is not empty. This happens because each job may contain multiple job tasks. I hold Ctrl-Shift keys and click on any job to open its editing form. As you see, these jobs contains 4 different tasks with different fuzzy types. Because of this, it is not possible to display work type, quantity, unit, and price here. I'm talking about this because it directly affects the way we print invoice. Let's go back to the designer. I close the invoice, go to Reports, select my invoice, and click Edit in the Designer button. So, to correctly display all data from each job, we have to print each job task here. To solve this task, we will add another detail report inside Invoice Row band. Right-click on the Invoice Row band and select Insert Detail Report. Here I select Unbound. This time we do not see list of nested tables because this is supported only for the higher level in the hierarchy of our data source. So I open Helper menu for the detail report, select our data source, and in the data member I have to select our invoice, invoice details, find our job column, and in this job we have to select our job tasks. And again I will rename this detail report to job rows and this detail band to job row or job task. So we have a clear structure now, invoice rows with invoice row band, which in its turn contains nested job rows report with job row band. Now we can start filling our table. This invoice row band has sense only when job column is empty, which is very rare case. Usually users always link invoice row with some job. This means that this band has no sense, so I will change it to 0. Detailed bands can be deleted, so please take this into account. When you need to build a template to print invoice with no jobs selected, you may use this band to display that data. Let's move on and add data to our job row band. Field list here on the right, especially when nested properties are expanded, may be very long and it's easy to get lost here. But the program helps you to navigate in the field list. When you select any control on the designer surface which is bound to some field, for example number or date here or term, this field will be automatically selected in the field list. And when you select any band of detail report, corresponding collection will be selected in the field list too. So you can immediately see list of fields which you need right now. So I just expand job tasks collection and see which fields are available to use in our report. The first column which we have to display here in our job row band is PO number. PO number can be found on the higher level of the job tasks table inside the job field. So I expand job and find PO number. Drag and drop here on the design surface and adjust the size. The same with job name, here it is, and other fields will be found in the job tasks table. So I select work type, drag name here below the service, then quantity, then price, unit, and amount. Now we have to change format string for price and quantity and amount. I expand helper menu, find our format string, and want to use the wizard, just type format string manually, which is 0 and 2. And 2 means a number with 2 decimal signs. Let me show another trick here which you can do with a format string. One of the most common tasks users ask me to implement is to add currency symbol before amount or price. Look, in the field list, invoice has a field named currency, and this reference property currency has two nested fields named name and symbol. We will use this symbol field as a prefix in our amount field. So again, I expand helper menu for the amount field, and I have to add a prefix here, but this time it won't be a fixed prefix as with what field for the customer. Instead, we will put a variable here. To do this, I have to use square brackets. I type open bracket and then type currency, point, symbol, close the bracket, add space. Then let me copy this format string and paste it into price and quantity fields. Done. Now quantity, price and amount will be preceded by invoice currency symbol. Now let's align our numbers at right and select all cells to add some padding. Here it is. Oh, we already have padding here left and right. Okay, and adjust height of our job row, and then go to print preview to see that some data is printed here. We can see that quantity is too narrow, column we have to make it wider, and maybe we have to add some separation between jobs. So I go back to the designer, and to add separation between our jobs we have to add report footer for our job rows report. Insert band, group footer, add a line, and select foreground color to gray. Make it little smaller, and again adjust band height. Instead of changing width of our columns here, I will simply decrease font size, so all our numbers will fit our columns. Now we have a separation line between each job and all our numbers here. Okay. Now let me show another feature you could use pretty often. Until now we dragged fields from the field list to link labels with database. This is shown by yellow icon. In addition, reporting engine allows to link labels not only with one field, but with any number of fields from the database. This mechanism is called mail merge. Let's imagine we'd like to include not only PO number here in the first column, but PO date, for example, or project manager name. Let me show you how to do that. I open helper menu and first of all I remove data binding from this field. And then go to edit mode of this label, and as with the format string, we can put multiple fields here by using square brackets. And it is also no need to type field names manually. I just type opening and closing square bracket and drag pure number inside it. We've got an expression here. Now we can add another field, so I type slash, for example, type another pair of square brackets and drag pure date field here. As you remember, time will be printed in the date field, so we have to add format string here. To do this, add exclamation mark at the end of the expression and type our format string, which is D, as you remember. Now when I will switch to print preview, I will get pure date after slash after pure number. The next task we have to solve is to display totals. Totals will be displayed in the invoice rows report footer. Here. I'm adding it, select insert detail report, insert band, and I have to select between group footer and report footer. To select better option, please use the following rule. When you need to display any dynamic data in the footer or header, use group footer. When the footer will contain static text, you can use report footers and headers respectively. So I select group footer. Then I add a label, type total here, make it bold, for example 14. Then I have to drag amount table field from the field list. This is amount before taxes or discount. Again, I will make it bold, increase size, make right alignment 14. Okay, and this amount will also include our currency symbol, so I type currency symbol space 0 and 2, and text alignment will be middle right, and decrease height, and let's rename group footer to totals. Now it's time to show the last feature I wanted to talk about. It is called conditional formatting. After table amount, we have to put our tax amounts, discounts, and then final amount. Sometimes our invoices include only one tax, sometimes two taxes. Discounts are very optional, and sometimes there are no any taxes or discounts included at all. So we cannot simply put tax amount below this amount, because in many cases it will show just 0. To display some data only when it is needed, I will use subbands and conditional formatting feature. So let's add a new subband to our footer. I select footer, right click, insert, add subband, and call it text1. I will copy two labels from our previous band and then drag text1 amount and text1 name to our text1 subband. When you drag and drop any field to a label which is already bound to another field, then this binding will be replaced with saving of all formatting properties and format string. So if I open helper menu for text amount, you will see that no need to add currency symbol again, so our format string was preserved. Then I select our text1 subband and find visible property. I will change it to no. So this band will be hidden by default. Now we must display it when some condition is met. For these purposes, the report has formatting rule sheet property. I open helper menu of the report and find this property, formatting rule sheet. Now let's create a new rule. Let's call it text1 rule, and here you see condition property. Open its expression editor, and you see that in the upper area we have to provide our expression. Currently it is empty, while bottom area contains a number of items which help you to visually construct your expression. In the functions node, you will find an extensive list of functions. Select any to read small help about it on the right. Double-click on any item to add it to the expression field. For now, we need a function called isNull. Let me just find it using this search box. I double-click on it to add this function to the expression field. According to this small help, this function returns true if passed parameter is null. And if we didn't select any text in our invoice, text1 field will be null. So I find it in the fields node and double-click on our text1 to add it as a parameter to our function. Also, we need to add a logical not operator before our function, so this expression will return true when text1 is not empty. Okay, and below expression in the formatting node, we have to specify what our conditional formatting rule must do with the control which is attached to. We can change a number of properties like font, background, and among all, visible property. Let's change it to yes. Now I have to close our formatting rule sheet editor, go to our text1 subband, open a helper menu, and find formatting rules property. Again, I open pop-up window, and here I can apply one or multiple formatting rules to our subband. Currently we have only one rule, so I click here on right button and apply this rule to our band. Click OK. So now this subband will be visible only when text1 is not empty. I will skip the same procedure for text2 and discount subbands and just add final total subband. And here I will use amount field. And again I will apply the same formatting rule to this subband and change its visible property to no. Also, we can add another subband to display, for example, invoice notes. Let's make it italic, increase width, and make it multi-line. Again, using a formatting rules property, you can display this subband only when invoice has some notes specified. Otherwise, you can hide it. After notes, we have to display accepted payment methods selected in the invoice. To do this, add another detail report. I will do it quickly because you already know the process. So right-click, insert detail report, payment method. I expand payment methods node and drag name and details. Name will be bold, details will be italic. Also, I will make multi-line property marked for details field because our bank details may contain multiple lines of text. Now I make it wider and decrease the height of this subband. Now I will show you another very interesting feature here. If you open helper menu for the payment method band, you will find multi-column mode property. This means that we can display bands in the detail report in more than one column, which is a perfect solution here for payment methods because they don't require much space to display. So I will make it 2-column and select multi-column layout property to first across, then down. This gray area here highlights a space where second column will be printed, so we should avoid putting any controls here on the gray area. I will make these two labels a little narrower. Now, when a few payment methods are selected as accepted in our invoice, they will be printed in a more compact way using this two-column layout. Finally, we can create a report footer which is printed at the bottom of each page of our invoice. I will add group footer here, insert band, group footer, and drag few fields from the user property, like address, email, web page, phone. I will speed up video now and will do this quickly. Group footer has the properties called repeat every page and print at bottom. I will mark both these properties, so now this data will be repeated on every page of our invoice and it will always stick to the bottom of the paper. Now let's go to the preview and we see more or less finished invoice which only needs a better design. But we have one issue here. Look, our invoice table takes exactly one page and totals were printed on the next page. This doesn't look good. Let's fix it. First of all, open Helper menu for our footer and select Keep Together property. This option will prevent from splitting subbands between pages. They all will be printed together at one page. Next property is Group Union here. Select with last detail. This allows to avoid such situations as printing totals at the beginning of a new page. Now the program will move at least one row from the invoice rows band to the next page before printing totals. Instead, some empty space will be left on the previous page. Let's go to the Preview tab to confirm that this issue is fixed. Looks better now. Now we have few invoice details rows here and followed by totals. And our report footer on each page. Finally, to add a support for final edit in future, when you are able to make final edits right in the preview window, select necessary fields on the designer surface holding Shift key. For example, let's select customer address and notes. Now I go to the property grid and find Edit Options property. Here I expand it and select Enabled to Yes. Then I'm switching back to Print Preview tab, and here we have Editing Fields button. This button allows to highlight fields which support final editing. So we can double click here on notes or add some notes here. So we can type right in the generated invoice. Great. In short, this is all I wanted to tell about invoice designing. Of course, you may still find it a complex task, especially expression editor, but I believe it became much more clear now in terms of structure understanding and general workflow. Anyway, you will be using one of predefined templates to build your own, and now it will be much easier for you to start and understand what and how everything is implemented there. We'll return to this topic a little later in the custom reports tutorial, where I will explain few additional features specific to custom reports, which also can be used in the invoice template customization process. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. Sorry for any mistakes and slowdowns. Hear you soon. Goodbye.